Welcome, everyone. Today we have a very special guest that at the age of 26 has already built a few multi-million-dollar businesses, graduated with a Ph.D., and played professional baseball. Besides that, he is also the CEO of Ketogenic.com. He's the author of the Ketogenic Bible, the president of the Applied Science and Performance Institute, and he's the host of the WTF Podcast, which is What the Fat. With us today, we have Dr. Ryan Lowery. How's it going?
Great, man. Thanks. I'm honored to be on.
Well, man, so is there anything you don't do?
Oh, man, I try and fit it all, man. I try and make the most out of every minute of every day.
That's super cool. So before we go into business and all that stuff, tell us a bit about who you are as a person.
Yeah, I mean, everything I have, or I think my entire demeanor, stems from the people around me. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of mentors, a great family, amazing friends that are all supportive. And I think that's important for talking about who I am. So coming up, I come from a small town mentality. I grew up in a very small town in New Jersey, where everyone knew everyone. Everyone knew everyone's business, what they were doing. And it was like the Friday night light scene where like the only thing that mattered was football on Friday nights. And so it was cool. It kind of molded you to be like this strong supportive, you had the strong supportive network. And then the big step for me, I had a very tight-knit family. I still do to this day, and they're super supportive. And for me, it was more just like, you know what, I wanted to get out of that small town mentality. I wanted to figure out like, how do I go out on my own? And that's when on a limb, like I literally completely went from New Jersey, where no one really in my town, no one really ever ventured outside of the tri-state area. And I went to University of Tampa down in Florida and have been down in Tampa literally ever since I made that move for my freshman year of college.
Wow. And what was it that you studied there in Tampa?
So I did my undergraduate there in exercise physiology, and then I also did my master's in exercise and nutrition science.
Wow. And now you're, of course, into keto and you own Ketogenic.com. And so I want to ask you about that. Was that domain available?
So yeah, so we did a lot of research throughout my undergraduate, throughout my master's. Like I published a lot of research while I was playing baseball at the university, and keto was just always a fascinating topic to me. It was really interesting. I lost my grandmother way too young. She was 60 years old, and she was overweight, had heart disease, and so I always was fascinated with nutrition. And so I came across keto and all the benefits of a ketogenic diet, and I really, really fell in love with like, wow, I really want to study this. And so then we found, probably about 5 years ago, found that Ketogenic.com was available. We're like, you know what, we just want to put out information, like a completely free resource where it's just like, let's put out articles and recipes and allow people to get more and more knowledge about like, what is a ketogenic diet? I want to learn more about it, but like I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is. And so that's why we created it.
Yeah, so that's incredible because, you know, over the last, I would say probably 3 to 5 years, the word keto has been exploding and growing, and everybody is almost like Bitcoin. Everybody since 2017 knows what that is. Same with keto. And there's still some people like you. I interviewed another guest, which he's been doing keto for 20 years. He ended up saving his dad 20 years ago by putting him into keto. And it was Mr. Andrei Tarasenko. He's the keto tutor. And he has ketonify.com, which is also keto brand. So how is it that people like him and you knew about keto before it came to this, you know, before everybody else?
Yeah, I think a lot of it stems from that background in science. So for me, like one of the business we've created is ASPI, the Applied Science and Performance Institute. And really the entire reason why we created that was we were in academia or academics for so long. and you realize that there's so much incredible research that's out there, but it's at such a high level, right? The only other people that understand it are doctors and PhDs,
Yes.
and like it's not being translated down to the masses. And so that's the same thing with keto. There's been research going on for decades about how it's being utilized for epilepsy, cancer, neurological conditions, and people are seeing endurance athletes, but it's just not being translated down to the masses. And I think we wanted to be a part of that movement, and I think now it's finally starting to catch on more and more, that people are like, wow, like how do I take this high level research on keto or anything in general, and then I need to be able to make it practical. Otherwise, what is it worth just sitting on a shelf, not really being able to impact anyone?
Awesome. So now the question I want to ask you is, for people that don't know about keto and all that stuff, is keto something like temporary? Do I go into keto for 2-3 weeks and then get out, or is this something that you continue?
Yeah, I like to tell people it's a lifestyle. Like I like to tell people it's more being carb conscious. We live in a society today where there's a ton of carbohydrate or sugar rich foods. And so for us, it's how do you make this a lifestyle, not something that's temporary, not something that you're going to do for a week and then go, all right, I'm going back to eating a high carb pizza or high carb this or regular buns. And the amazing part, the reason why I say high carb pizza is because you can make alternatives. For everything that's out there, there's literally an alternative, whether it's candy, brownies, cookies, bread, there's keto alternatives. And so for me, it's just getting people to wrap their minds around the fact that like, yeah, wow, I can still have bread. I can still have cookies. I can still have chicken parm or pasta from coming from an Italian family. Like they would kill me if I didn't have pasta. Like, no, I still have pasta. I just use like palmini noodles, or I use shirataki noodles instead of like regular pasta. And it's like, oh, okay. Like he's still allowed in the family, sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, is there different ways of doing keto? Because I hear there's a healthy way, then there's the you need to eat 10 pounds of bacon before noon kind of keto. Which one is the right one?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think because it's gotten so popular, there's all this different craziness. It's the reason why we created Ketogeniccom, to try and help sift through some of this noise. But in essence, I think there's something known as a well-formulated ketogenic diet, and that differs by person to person. But a well-formulated ketogenic diet isn't one that is 10 pounds of bacon before noon. It's not one that you take an entire stick of butter and put it inside of your coffee. It's one that, like, listen, you're focusing on minimizing carbohydrate intake. You're focusing on getting in enough ample amounts of protein, and then you're filling in the rest of your calories with fat. Like, it's not, I'm trying to shove down fat down people's throats. It's like, no, let me worry first about minimizing carbs, make sure we're getting good protein sources, and then fill in the rest with healthy fats, things like avocados, MCTs, think coconut oil, things like that.
Okay, perfect. So can somebody on a plant-based diet, can that person be keto as well?
Great question. Yes, I have a good friend, Dr. Will Cole, who actually talks about this in, there's a book called Ketotarian, and he talks about like more of a plant-based approach to keto. And it's going to be very high in things like avocados, and you're going to be eating a lot of leafy green vegetables and using some of those oils to help increase your fat intake. But it's certainly, it's definitely more challenging, but it's certainly possible.
Awesome. So tell us, before we go any deeper into this, I saw that you had you had a carnivore experience,
Good.
right? Pardon me. Can you tell us first, what is it, and then what were the results?
Yeah, so in the keto world right now, there's like two extremes, right? So you have like a well-formulated ketogenic diet, which is where I sit 99.9% of the time. Like, cool, I'm flexible with it. But then you have like the extremists who are like vegans on one end, who say meat is terrible, and then you have these carnivores on the other end who say that plants are the worst thing that you could ever have in your life. And I'm like, like blown away. I'm like, can't we all like just find a happy medium? But nonetheless, like a lot of people are seeing tremendous success from carnivore, which is basically just eating meat and eggs and nothing else. So literally just eggs and meat, and you're not touching anything else. So I was like, you know what? I want to look at this, and I'm going to do it on myself for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an interesting experiment for me. For me, like in the keto world, everyone knows that like I love Cobb salads. Like that is my thing. Like I love eating Cobb salads. So that was the most difficult part. And part of that for me is because I like volume in my food. So like volume meaning like I like having a big plate because I come from a family that like it was my dad came from the military where like you did not throw away any food on your plate. Like it was like you sat there until you finished your plate. And so like I was like, I need volume. And carnivore is very low on volume because you think about it, it's like a piece of meat or maybe 2 burgers, and I'm like, I need. Yeah. So for me, in the beginning, it was challenging. Eventually, I adapted. It was interesting. I definitely felt less bloated, which a lot of people on carnivore report because they feel like they get bloated from a lot of the fiber from certain vegetables. But it was an interesting experiment. We're still analyzing my gut microbiome data. It's an enormous amount of data. But it was interesting. I probably won't do it again. Like I think it's a tool. I don't think it's something that people should do or need to do 12 months out of the year. I think it's a tool. Like, hey, if you're going to try and like cut down some inflammation, or you want to like maybe lose a little bit of fat before an event, cool. Utilize it for a couple weeks. But other than that, for me, it's just like I miss my carbs too much.
Sounds good. And how about with fasting, intermittent fasting and stuff like that? Is that something that you have tried? And if you did, is that something that you recommend?
Yeah, I do. Definitely. I do it. I will say there's some things to be careful of with intermittent fasting that I'll mention, particularly in females. But with intermittent fasting, I do it daily. So for me, like it's basically Monday through Friday, I don't eat breakfast. I work out in the morning, and then I typically have just a lunch and a dinner. I probably eat 2 meals a day. And I think the intermittent fasting window can vary based on the individual. I would caution people, like if you're going to start doing intermittent fasting, don't be like, I'm going to go from 0 to 100 and fast for 24 hours. Like slowly work your way up, like fast for 12 hours and 14 hours and 16 and work your way up. But typically every week I do at least one 24-hour fast where I basically stop eating probably around dinner, 6-7 o'clock on Sunday, and I eat again on Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like I think daily intermittent fasting is a great tool, even if you're not on a ketogenic diet, just for anyone. I think it's a great tool. But I would be cautious of like extended fasting where people are fasting for like 48 hours every week. Particularly like females, there seems to be a lot going on with their hormones, especially if they do it every single week or like every other day, they're fasting that long of time. But intermittent fasting is perfectly safe, perfectly fine, and your body adapts and sees tremendous benefit.
I heard that by doing intermittent fasting, and just to be honest, I have been doing like the 18 and 6, right? So 18 hours a day without eating, and then I have 6-hour window. And just recently, I read somewhere that there is some science that says that it will increase HGH, so the human growth hormone. Is that maybe one of the reasons why females shouldn't go too long with it?
Yeah, it could be. But like 18.6 is perfectly fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about like females. I know a lot of females like males do this too. So it's not just females, but like they'll be like, you know what, I saw great results from 18. So now I'm going to go 48 hours
Yeah.
fasting. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do 48 hours fasting, eat for a day, and then go 48 hours fasting. And they take it to like these extremes, but you're jacking cortisol up. You're not getting in ample amounts of protein. There's something else known as like a protein sparing modified fast, which is another good approach that people can utilize, especially if you're trying to preserve muscle mass, where basically all you're doing is you're eating protein for a day, where it's just
Mm-hmm.
like pure protein. It's like mimicking fasting to some degree, but like you're providing enough nutrients to help preserve muscle tissue.
All right. So now let's get into, before we get into ketogenic.com, because I want to know all about that. But it looks like you have the perfect life, right? at the age of 26, you already have a few global businesses, multi-million dollars. You're a doctor. So is everything perfect in life? Did you have any kind of failures?
Oh, I've had probably more failures and more successes in my life. And I think that's what everyone goes through, trials and tribulations. And that's what I attribute any of my success to, is you learn from those trials and tribulations. The first one for me started when I was 17 years old, and I watched someone come literally in the morning. I heard my mom crying because they had just towed away my dad's car because we had gone bankrupt. They had filed for bankruptcy on the house, and the last thing that they had was this car. And we watched them like screech it down the road because the emergency brake was still on, and like it just left this mark. And like that's always been ingrained in my head of like, wow, like this is rock bottom. Like this is what rock bottom looks like. And we were losing the house, we were losing everything, and I was just getting ready to go off into college. And I was like, wow, like I'll never forget this feeling. But for me, that stuck with me, and things happen in business too. Like there's been times, the first investment I ever made was when I was literally 21 years old, and people approached us about this app. It was a great idea, and I learned one of the best lessons of my life about whether you bet on the horse or you bet on the jockey. And I bet on the horse. And the horse was that this was a great idea. Like it was phenomenal on paper. Like it was this app where basically you can go on, get customized coaching. This was way before all of the customized coaching is out there now. Like customized coaching, workout plans, meal plans, everything. And I took everything I had in my savings account because I was like, oh, I'm going to be this cool, like 21-year-old. I'm going to invest in this company. It's going to do great. And me and my now business partner invested in this company just passively. They were running it, and we lost it all. Like within 6 months, it went under. And that's when I learned, probably it was like $15,000. And I learned my first lesson that I was like, never bet on the horse. I always bet on the jockey. So I always learn from here on out, like, wow, like, yeah, you have to have a sound business plan. You have to have a sound model, but I will take someone who will go through anything. They'll go to hell and back to try and make this thing successful. And they've been through trials and tribulations. I love the underdog. I love the people who have failed 10 times, but this is their 11th time. And they're so persistent, and they understand like, hey, I've learned and grown from each one of those processes. And so from there on out, it's just been like, hey, let's find good jockeys. Let's find good people to bring on our team, not only in other businesses that we invest in, but just even in our own internal teams. Like those are the type of people that you want around you.
Absolutely. You know what? When you were telling the story of the car being towed and all that, that was so visual, the way you explained it, that I imagined it when it was being towed with the e-brake on and all that stuff. So it didn't happen to me, and I envisioned it just through your story. So I'm guessing that did mark you in a very strong way. So maybe do you think that did help you in your future, saying like, oh, this is never going to happen again?
Oh, tremendously. So I still have it on my phone today. So in college, I printed out, because immediately after that happened, I took a picture from my living room window out onto my driveway of it had the black marks streaking down the street. And I literally took a picture of that and hung it in my college dorm room, where I was like, I'll never forget this. Like, I'll never forget the feeling of my mom being devastated and upset, and then pulling that away and being super embarrassed because like neighbors started coming outside and were like watching this car go away. And I was like, I never want myself, I never want my family, I never want my friends or anyone that I love to ever experience anything like that again.
Wow. So let's get into Ketogenic.com. And basically, you turned now your passion for keto into a business, right? What made you start this business?
For us, it was more of a passion project. So we wrote the Ketogenic Bible, and we're like, you know what, we just need to get more information out there. And literally for the last 3 years, we've run it at a loss. Like literally, we're just like, we're going to hire on teams. We're going to bring on people to help write content. put out the best information possible, build a community to help foster this conversation. We want to be able to help guide people through it. And for us, more than anything, it was just a passion project of like, cool. And then now it's like, how do you take that passion project and actually turn it into a business and make it a thriving business that now is not only about to be in the US, but we're expanding internationally with partners in South America, China, and get literally this information that's needed out to the world.
Okay. So what advice would you have for somebody that's just starting out now?
For keto?
Yes.
Honestly, it's build the foundation first. I think there's so many different keto programs out there, keto this, keto that. And what happens is like, you might go into this keto program and be like, oh, I'm going to get started. And you see some success, but then it's like, hey, here's your 28-day plan and forget about everything else. And I'm like, but what about like the rest of it? And so our goal truly with Ketogeniccom is how do we create optimized systems? Like, I want people to build an optimal foundation, because if you don't have an optimal foundation, once you continue building up on that, it's going to crumble at some point if you don't have a strong foundation. So I think there's a way, kind of like what we were talking about before, there's so many different ways to do keto. There needs to be an optimal way, and that optimal way isn't the same for everyone. It's optimal for you. Like, you might do really well at intermittent fasting, but someone else might not, and they need to be able to customize their keto approach to that. And so that's really the advice I'd say is find those anchors, find those people who are willing to put out information, content for you to learn from, and then understand that like a blanket program isn't going to be the same for you as it is going to be for someone else. It's finding what's optimal for you and getting those tools to make it apply to your journey.
Cool. So on your site, do we have a ketogenic certified? Can you explain what that is and how that can benefit us?
Yeah, so mainly that's for companies. That's our B2B, where we're basically, there's so many different products out there. Like you talked about, the keto world is just exploding. And so what people are doing is like, hey, how do I provide snacks? How do I provide cookies, brownies, bars, everything you can imagine? There's pros and cons to that. Pros are that it gives someone like, hey, rather than grab a bar that's full of sugar on the road, like now I actually have a keto bar. Cons are companies see the opportunity, slap keto on their product when it's actually not a legitimately keto product, and it knocks someone out. They feel horrible. They get GI issues, the whole 9 yards. So for us, we wanted to work on both ends of the spectrum. And so we work with companies on getting their product certified and the trust of the consumer, meaning that like they look for products that are ketogenic certified. And so we just rolled that out last month. We have several companies that are in the pipeline for getting that process started, but we really want to reward companies that are doing the right thing. And it'll weed out the companies that are just slapping the keto sticker on it, because people will look for that ketogenic certified logo and go, all right, this is a legitimate product. I can consume this on a ketogenic diet versus, I don't know about that. It just says keto on it because the company slapped a random sticker on it, even though they're not using legitimate ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely. As a Amazon seller, I see that often that, for example, when it comes to the vegan one, and it's a big thing because the community is also growing very fast. So a lot of people put on their description that it's vegan in the boxes, and it's not really certified, right? When there's a bit of a hassle to go through it to get certified, I guess same as keto, vegan, and anything else, there's certification. And a lot of people just slap it on there hoping it flies. So I'm glad you're doing that. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So another thing on your website is a locked section, right? It's the Keto Club is a locked section. So what is behind those closed doors?
Yeah, so that's actually launching here very soon. So basically, we wanted a place to bring the community together. So this is really where people who have tried a ketogenic diet, who have maybe heard of it but don't really know where to get started, like you were saying, they can come to Keto Club. And so what Keto Club is, you're going to get exclusive recipes, articles, walkthrough videos, quick tip videos, and you're going to have the ability to ask a group of doctors, thought leaders, any questions that you have. So there'll be literally a Q&A where you can get all of your questions answered. Hey, is this a legitimate product? Boom, there's someone there on the other side. Or, hey, how do I know how much protein to consume? Boom, there's someone there on the other side. And it's basically a place, like our whole goal with Keto Club is to allow people to optimize their journey. Like you've started, but now you need to optimize it. And so that's what we're trying to do with Keto Club, is allow people that foundation to really build off of, so that way they're doing things the right way.
That sounds very good. So that's something is that your top number one priority right now that you're working on?
Yeah, that's number one. So we're working on that. And we're also, we get reached out to by a lot of companies, a lot of these ketogenic certified companies. By the end of the year, we're actually going to have a storefront on Ketogenic.com, because right now people are going all over the place. Some of them aren't on Amazon. Some people are only selling on their website. What if I wanted anything that's keto? I could go to Ketogenic.com and go, cool, I can get a cookie, a brownie, a pizza crust, a this, and add them all to my cart from there, and be able to just go, cool, all of our products are housed here rather than all over the web.
Nice. So that was something that I was going to bring up, because I did notice on your site, there is, of course, there's a shop there, but there is nothing to ingest, right? There's no cookies, no powders, nothing. So is there a reason that there's none yet? Is it just because you're working on it?
Working on it, and something that I probably have to talk to you after about is we're working through the logistics of like 3PL, potentially Amazon FBA, like FBA, all these different options. So we're working on the logistics of like which one would be better and which one would serve the community better, so we didn't have to have extremely high prices to be able to curate all of that content into one place.
Absolutely. And the products, you're going to have everybody's, or you're going to have your own, kind of like create your own brands?
Probably not at the beginning. We'll probably just sell everyone else's, because we get I want to support the people who are already doing it out there. We'll do specials with them where, like, especially with ketogenic certified products, we want to be able to support them in a bigger way and go, listen, you already took the next step of making sure your product's legitimate. I wouldn't want to sell anything on my site. It doesn't matter what the margin is or whatever the amount of money they were trying to pay. I wouldn't sell it on our site if it wasn't a legitimate product.
Perfect. Yeah, I really like that. So as of right now, kind of what is your life purpose?
Honestly, my personal life purpose is to help people live more fulfilled lives with perspective and positivity. I'm big on both of those aspects. And I think so many times, like even on my own Instagram channel, I talk a lot about positivity and perspective. And for me, I'm just trying to help lead others on that same path of realizing, like, listen, you woke up today and someone else didn't. Like, stop complaining about these nuances or these little items that you think are a big deal. In the grand scheme of things, it's really not.
I know. There's, I really love positivity, and I checked your Instagram account too, which is amazing. And you have over 50,000 followers. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And like I said, I really love positivity, and I'm trying to do it every single day and be positive and be grateful. And like you said, there's a lot of people that don't know what to be grateful for, and just look around, look at your hand. Do you have 5 fingers? Well, there's somebody out there that doesn't, right? And you have both legs, you go both arms, you opened the tap this morning, water came out. Well, be grateful, right? There's little things, and that makes you be positive when you know what to be grateful for, so you can be positive throughout the day and inspire others to be positive. So I love that.
Absolutely.
So you have a dog, which is one of your best buddies, and is it Scoop?
Scoot.
Scoot. So how old is he?
Scoot's 6. He just turned 6 earlier this year.
Very good. Is there any chance for dogs needing to be on a keto diet?
I think there's a huge application for dogs. So he's an amazing dog. He is a rescue. I got him it'll be a year in August is when I'll have him. He's a tripod, so he only has 3 legs. But he like literally will not let that hold him back. He'll run after squirrels, jump, do anything. You would never know that he had 3 legs if like you didn't see one of them missing. But he has just been a huge blessing. He's on a ketogenic diet. He's actually on a raw ketogenic diet. So the reason is, if anyone that's listening to this thinks that the human food is bad, like the McDonald's, the Burger King, I can't even tell you what's inside of kibble. Like kibble is the worst thing in the world that you could give to pets. If you knew what went on or what actually went into kibble, you'd be like, oh my gosh. But it's a lot easier because you don't see the list of ingredients on the back. It's a lot easier for them to mask or hide that. And so when you're going to Walmart and getting this cheap kibble, it's having an impact on your animal's stomach, on their gut, on what they're supposed to be eating. By nature, cats and dogs are hunters. Like they're going to eat meat. They're going to eat other animals, or they're not going to go over and like pick at the grass. They're going to eat animals. And so I learned a lot from a group called the Keto Pet Sanctuary. And this group's doing incredible work. They're basically taking dogs who are in shelters who are about to be euthanized that have cancer, and they're bringing them to their facility. They put them on a raw ketogenic diet. They give them hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and they exercise them, get them outside, get them moving. And in nearly all of the cases that they've done so far, they've done about 60 dogs. Nearly all of the cases, they've either significantly reduced or completely rid the dog of their tumor. And it's just incredible work being done. And so I utilize more of a raw approach with him, and he loves it. Like, has never been better. He has a lot of anxiety. I use CBD with him as well, but he just is an amazing, amazing dog. His fur is so much better. He's always active, wanting to run around, and just incredible.
That's so fascinating. And the reason why I did ask you that was because I know how terrible dog foods are. And then there's also the other point of view is where somebody tries to create something a little bit better for them. Not only it's harder, but it becomes super expensive, and it may not be as receptive by the customers because of the higher price point. But the amount of crap, like you said, that's going into our pets' foods is completely insane. And unfortunately, I witnessed that to a pet we had, and ended up developing 7 tumors. And all of that, I believe 100% it was food related, right?
Right.
So yes, here's an opportunity for somebody out there that is listening. If you want to get into launching brands of pet foods that are healthy for the pets, not healthy for the humans, not healthy for the wallets, but something that's going to help them live longer. There's your opportunity right there.
Right.
So, Ryan, besides your Instagram, which is instagram.com/Ryan Lowery, has 50,000 followers. Your website is Ketogenic.com, and you are author or co-author of the Ketogenic Bible?
Co-author, yeah.
Co-author. So besides these 3 places where people can find you, where else can they find you?
You can also on Facebook, if you just search Dr. Ryan Lowery on Facebook. And then also we just launched a new website that's going to basically just be my personal blog page for just more about my life, what's going on. And that's drlowery.com. So that'll be more just like cool stuff about like me, Scoot, what's going on in the world other than keto.
Nice. And your podcast that has it's the WTF Podcast, isn't that right?
Yeah. What the fat? Yep.
What the fat? So I'm guessing, well, I don't have to guess. It is about ketogenic, keto diet, and you interview people about that as well?
Yep. Interview about people at the ketogenic diet, but also just like high-level performers, high-level athletes about things that are going against the grain. Again, like I said, my mission is to help people live a fulfilled life. lives through perspective and positivity. So there are some people on there who just are carb conscious, maybe not even ketogenic, but understand that nutrition has an impact and a role, and just help tell their story.
Perfect. So if you guys are interested, you can check it out. It's WTF, What the Fat, and you can find it on iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher, probably everywhere you can listen to podcasts. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right. So, Dr. Ryan, I really appreciate you spending your time here with us and letting us know about this. And there was a lot of things that I actually wanted to know for myself too, because I'm fascinated with different styles. And like you said, there's always two sides of every coin, and you need to be able to test and know what works for you. So that's what I think everybody should do, and see what works for you, because we're not all built the same, right?
Absolutely right. I couldn't agree more.
So again, thank you very much for this time, and I hope all the best for you.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for subscribing to Fail Fast Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review and visit failfastpodcast.com for show notes, Quinn's social media, or even to tell us your story.